So from Australia's biggest energy retailer to Santos, the biggest domestic gas supplier in the country. So its opinion on the current crisis is key to the future of gas and electricity supply and prices as well. Today I sat down with its chief executive, Kevin Gallagher, and asked him if Santos is the problem or the solution to the East Coast gas crisis.
Well, look, one of the things we've been saying for many years, Ross, is that this problem has been coming for a long time. And the reason for that is that whilst the last decade or so we've not been able to bring any new projects on, any new gas fields on in the East Coast as a consequence of moratoriums, bans on gas in Victoria, for example, and just increasing green and red tape preventing new projects coming to market, that we are producing a depleting resource. And as much as the activists want us to jump and transition to green energy, the fact of the matter is that those green energy sources aren't there today. And what we've seen now is the gas market is adequately supplied. It is adequately supplied until we lose another part of the market. And over the last couple of months, 30% of the coal-fired power generation has been taken offline for unplanned and planned maintenance activities. At the same time, renewables has underperformed, and those coal-fired generators have then gone looking for gas as a last resort to keep the power stations running, and they've taken that gas away from the gas buyers. And although only 10% of the market is supplied on spot, the rest is long-term contracts. And I can just make the point that Santos, for example, sells all of its gas on long-term contracts, and our average price year to date is under $8 for that gas, which is more than 4 times less than those prices you've been reading about in the last few weeks.
OK, so here's the point. Because you are committed to long-term contracts, you can't suddenly divert that gas, which is already contracted, back into the Australian local energy market to take pressure off the current situation.
Well, it's those lack of new projects bringing new supply into the market. The fact that that hasn't happened has meant that over the years, the redundancy and resilience we had in the system, the buffer, if you want to call it that, has been depleted, and it no longer exists. So when a crisis like this occurs in another sector and they come calling on the gas, we just don't have the spare gas, and so somebody loses out. And the people I feel sorry for are the mums and dads and the small businesses who ultimately are relying on those retailers who buy in the spot market to supply that gas into their homes or to their small businesses, and their prices have just gone through the roof.
Which adds to inflation, but it also adds to electricity prices, because if you've got higher prices for coal, and gas was seen to be, if you like, the interim energy source between coal and renewables, and the gas is now very expensive, that means electricity prices are also very expensive.
Yeah, and right around the world, gas is seen as a transition fuel. And that's why it's seen as a transition fuel. It's a transition from coal to gas to renewables or cleaner fuels that would take the place of gas over the longer term. The move with everybody rushing to outdo each other with commitments for 2030 reductions has meant that gas has almost got lumped with coal as what we're trying to transition from in one step. And it can't be a one-step transition. It's got to be a multi-step transition.
But the Victorian government has said to households, Bass Strait's running out. We're not going to have gas in the future. We'll have something else. But they've now started to go 180 degrees on that.
The irony in that, of course, is that Victoria, who say they don't want gas, if we didn't give them any gas, the rest of the east coast of Australia would have plenty of gas. But they do want gas, and they do need gas. And I think the people of Victoria have spoken and said they like gas as well. And yet they have got the cheapest gas right under their feet in Victoria. Lots of gas under their feet. And I would say to the Victorian government, if you want cheap gas, drill for it, because it's right under your feet. If you want to bring it from other states and from the north, it's going to be more expensive.
OK, so you've got Narrowboat as well. Now, no decision has been made on the development of Narrowboat, even though you know the gas is there as well. That could take pressure off. Does somebody need to fast-track the approvals to allow that project to go ahead?
Well, we would call on governments to help support the final steps in those approval processes and help us get that project up and running. We've been working very hard to progress that project over a number of years, and we're making progress. But I think a federal and a state government effort to help get that project over the line would bring much needed gas to the East Coast, and that would be around 150 terajoules per day of gas. And Santos owns that project 100%, and we've dedicated and committed 100% of that gas to the domestic market.
So in other words, if you get the approvals, how long would it take that gas to come on stream?
Right, and so I would describe that as a medium-term solution. We still have to drill the wells, we still have to build the gas plant to do all of that, and so you're talking 26, you're talking 2026, 2025 at the best.
So what about the idea of having terminals in Port Kembla, in maybe Longford in Victoria, and bringing the gas around from Western Australia, just as they do in South Korea, just as they do in Japan?
Well, look, as far as I'm concerned, the more sources, the better. I've no opposition, I'm not an opponent, I should say, to import terminals. However, the long-term lowest cost gas you're ever going to get is the gas that you develop near to home.
Kevin Gallagher, good to have you on the program today.
Thank you, Ross. Pleasure.